Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast. If you've been listening to this podcast for a little while, you know that this is a place where I explore everyday life, the small, funny, sometimes chaotic stuff that can be part of our bigger journeys leading to clarity and calm and finding meaning and purpose. And on the Miles to Zen podcast, we've talked about everything from clearing out decades of family clutter to clearing out our inner clutter to getting comforted by signs and synchronicities, beginner's luck. And it's all about us being aware of what's possible and noticing our ordinary experiences, even ones that frustrate us, can often become teachers and ultimately allows us to feel more grounded and present. And today's story, I feel, fits right in with this theme. And it's a story about soup, but not just any soup. This came out of some hilarious hope I had for legumes. A little bit of inherited guilt, shall we say, from my parents' farm, and a reminder that we all need to sometimes let things go. And letting things go literally means sometimes to throw something out. And yes, today's episode is called Atonement Soup. And it really is atonement soup for one, because no one else in my family would eat it. And it's funny because it's also about freeing yourself from guilt and clutter and memories that you don't necessarily need to pull along into everything, and self-forgiveness all simmer together in one very dodgy soup. So anyways, let me bring you back to the beginning of where this soup started. I was clearing out my parents' farm. They were socially acceptable hoarders. It took a couple years. I sorted through their stuff most weekends. It was really full on because I had a full job. I have family. It was an hour away. So it was tons. And I tried to keep things out of the landfill as much as possible. I did tons of runs to the Salvation Army to donate things. A lot of things went into recycling. Some things just went into the landfill. And I learned that while I was so grateful to have the time to go through their stuff and be able to honor some of their stuff, we just don't take our stuff with us. We can't take our stuff with us, even if we downsize. If your parents are moving into retirement living, they're not taking their stuff with them. So the sooner they can clear that out, the better. And at the end of your life, what are you going to do with all this stuff? You have the memories of the stuff, and that's what is important. And it's still stuff in the physical. So I feel like I've earned a PhD in clutter removal. And I'm sure I could do more on a podcast at some point. I haven't necessarily fully applied it in my life. I still have many boxes that I need to get through. But coming from being the daughter of two socially acceptable hoarders and also being married to someone whose parents were very similar, we come by this honestly and we're getting better. So the legume legacy, the source of this soup, what happened here? So there were certain things that I could not throw out because I thought, I could use this stuff. It's useful to someone. I managed to give an industrial quantity of brown sugar to my neighbors, but I also inherited an industrial supply of legumes. And thinking that they could last forever and knowing how important fiber is, I wanted to use them. So I make things all the time with legumes. And I decided to make lentil soup. And I don't know why I didn't realize, but my lentils looked a lot like split peas. But I refused to believe it. I even looked it up on that Google image search, and sure enough, it came back as split peas. But I still refused to believe it. I was still so convinced that these were lentils. Now we could go way down that track of why I didn't even believe Google image search, but um, lentils are actually a third the size of split peas. But I was optimistic, I suppose. So I soaked these would-be lentils for a little while, like an hour or so, and then I cooked them with the rest of my soup because with lentils, you can do that. They will soften up. They'll be good. They get mushy. They work. Split peas, not so much. So I tried to salvage the soup. I drained off the stock. I scraped off the carrots from the top. And I thought, maybe I just need to cook this for longer. So I added more water into those would-be lentils, which I came to the uncomfortable realization that these were indeed split peas. And I cooked these things for another 4 hours on the stove. After 4 hours, those split peas were still hard as rocks. And I'd learned that lesson before because I had done the exact same thing with black beans. But that time I had at least soaked them overnight. I pressure cooked them twice. They were still hard as rocks. And if you've purchased your legumes before the disco era, you need to throw them out. They're not good. They're just not good. So I was having this talk with a friend this morning, and she gave me the title of my soup. We were talking about feeling guilty about using the leftover vegetables in our fridge. And she was talking that she had a third cycle of vegetables in her fridge to make this one dish that she wanted to make. And she just wasn't getting around to it. And they were looking worse and worse. And she was feeling super guilty about it. And then she said to me that I had made atonement soup. And oh my goodness, that is so accurate. We just killed ourselves laughing because that was just so funny. So, the definition of atonement is reparation for a wrongdoing or an injury. Or in a religious context, it's a reparation for sin. And the etymology of the word atonement originates from the phrase at one, meaning to be at one with each other, suggesting unity after a period of strife. I was trying so hard to do this with this darn soup. And I think, that strife was really those years of trying to clear out my parents' house. And I was atoning for the things I did throw out. I don't know. So, anyways, I salvaged what I could of the soup. I put it in the fridge. I threw out the other soup that I tried to recover those split peas from. They were still hard after 4 hours. And I knew that even 100 years of being in the compost, those things were now officially rocks. They would always remain rocks, and there was no hope. And I realized just last night, because I was eating this soup, I was trying to eat this soup, and it was cold. And because I thought I needed to eat this soup, I needed to get the nutritional value out of this soup. It was loaded with vitamins. I didn't want to heat it up because I didn't want to commit to having a full bowl of this soup. But I felt like I shouldn't waste any more things. I shouldn't throw out any more things. So I was trying to eat my soup, and it wasn't delicious. And I then tried to give it to my husband to eat, and he's like, "You're really not selling this soup." And really, it was awful. And I needed to just let it go. That concept of letting go is so important. Like being one with yourself and others and your true self, I mean. And sometimes life, yeah, is like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. But sometimes all your lessons just can be boiled down to soup. And if you are putting some good ingredients into your life and you feel good about things, your life soup is going to taste good. And if you bring all this crap into your soup, just like dinosaur quality legumes, it's not going to taste good, no matter how much you try to cook it. Like, stop bringing in all this old shit and drudging up all this stuff and looking in the rearview mirror, because constantly looking in the rearview mirror means that we're not paying attention to what good stuff is coming up. And there's so much good stuff waiting for us that's in front of us. And when you're looking forward, you're seeing these new opportunities that you have to create your best life. And if you're constantly looking behind you, you have got your foot on the brakes. And there's something to be said for, for trying and for understanding what went wrong, but not dwelling there. Get rid of the old soup, get rid of the old ingredients, and clear up your mind, because you're never going to get the life that you want or that you deserve if you don't start looking forwards. And sometimes, even if you've made the best out of your ingredients, it's okay to realize that you've added too much crap from the past, and just remind yourself to let go of that stuff. So I had no idea I was making an analogy for life out of my atonement soup. But to wrap up, don't judge yourself for not doing what you think you should have done or not using what you should have, and start looking forward. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I certainly had fun with telling the story of the atonement soup. So please don't forget to subscribe, follow, do all the things. I appreciate you so much, and have a fabulous week.